When I first heard talk of a gender war, I scoffed at it because women are physically weak and would be annihilated in a real military engagement. Now, I see that men have lost their lives, their freedom, their wealth, their resources, and their morale from the policies instituted that enable women to abuse men. These are the basic tenets of warfare: to kill your enemy, cut off their supply lines, break their will, and reap the spoils of war. Women could not wage this battle on their own. Forces behind the scenes have utilized the destabilizing and destructive nature of women as a weapon against men. I can't tell you specifically who or what or to what end, because there is merit in most of the theories, but I can say that the gender relations will not be repaired in our lifetimes. The temptation for power will always be present when women learn of the history of their feminist predecessors and the spoils of war they reaped from the crusade against men. In a previous video regarding the Me Too movement, I said that women cannot know the art of war. This is true because they have made rookie mistakes that any seasoned combatant could avoid. Take, for instance, how armies from all nations across history have respected the concept of the prisoner of war. When a man is beaten, the victor shows honor by showing mercy. This in turn creates a mutual respect, even through the rivalries, that if the victor should become the loser in the future, he would also be spared. The modern man is defeated. He's directionless, displaced, and living in a dystopic hell of a culture with no values. Instead of showing mercy to the broken men, women have decided to push past the breaking point and to unleash unyielding cruelty upon all men who they deem are unworthy for reproduction. This is their fatal flaw, and only psychotic men of war have made this mistake in the past. It is a common tactic in warfare to allow your enemy an avenue of escape. If you were to completely encircle your enemy, you would force them to fight to the last man. If surrender is not an option, you have created an enemy that must fight and utilize all of its capabilities for a chance at survival, or to inflict as much damage to your forces as possible. A cornered dog is more vicious than a dog that can run away. The modern woman, in all her stupidity, has forced the modern man to fight or die in this gender war she has started. A modern man can fight in many ways beyond the physical, and I totally condemn any acts of violence. A modern man can fight the gynocentric system by unplugging from it and removing himself from harm's way. He can regroup online and save as many men as he can. He can practice the art of attrition and metaphorically burn the fields before winter by withdrawing his funds from the sexual marketplace, the driving force that keeps it operating. Dehumanizing an enemy leaves that enemy no choice but to retaliate in kind. The most ruthless and dysfunctional armies have dehumanized their opponents. What does that say about the feminists? If they can so easily treat men as disposable utilities and wish for their destruction, does that not show how the fragments of that belief were already in their psyche? If you entertain these radical feminist ideas, you can see how they have no depth or lasting merit. If modern women can be indoctrinated that easily, obviously they have tapped into something that was there before, beneath the surface, and unleashed it upon the world. There is no quarter for men in this gender war, and this applies to the youth as well. With each generation since women's suffrage, more and more men have abandoned their posts as guardians and wardens of masculinity. It was their duty to pass on the fundamentals of masculinity to the next generation of men, and now today's youth is left to figure it out for themselves. Now that the precious nature of masculinity is exposed, enemies both male and female have pounced on the opportunity to destroy men's future potential and to prevent boys from becoming men. Of course, the general population will do nothing. As long as the majority believes they are benefiting from a situation, they will not seek to change it. Some innocent men may be destroyed in the global witch hunt. The meaning of bread and circus has been taken to new levels as everyone numbs themselves to the realities that are knocking at their doors. Almost every book written in the last 60 years is tainted with gynocentric ideas. Modern television and movies are mostly garbage aimed at the lowest common denominator in society. Music has become the vocalization of the worship of women because women are the main consumers. A young man today with no guidance from masculine men either withers into oblivion like so many men do under the tremendous pressure they find themselves burdened with, or looks back to the wisdom of men from history and embraces hypermasculinity. The feminists and the puppet masters at work behind the scenes have encircled men. They have destroyed good men who could have changed the world if they were given a chance to turn their passions into productivity, and they have turned the rest of us into avatars for the ultimate expression of masculinity. You cannot defeat a MGTOW man. You may break his body, but his will is far removed from the claws of the harpies and their cuck slaves. He has freed himself of external validation, so society has no power over him. He is able to go where other men cannot, do what other men could only dream of, and become what our ancestors, the great men that came before us, wanted for the future.